The elevator doors slid shut like a judgment, and I stood there in the hotel lobby watching bronze shoulders and designer dresses disappear behind polished steel. The sound they made, that soft mechanical whisper, felt louder than a slammed door. Louder than the laughter floating up from inside. Louder than the silence they left me standing in. My son's wedding party. My family celebration. My keycard in my hand, useless as a prayer. Room number? I'd asked, smiling like I belonged at my own family's party. The tallest bridesmaid, teeth white as hotel sheets, sang back, "We'll text you." "We're late. They never texted. I pressed the elevator button and waited. The lobby smelled like expensive candles and fresh flowers, the kind of place where everything costs twice what it should because they call it an experience. Behind me, a waterfall trickled over river rocks. Peaceful. Calm. Everything I wasn't feeling as I watched those numbers climb, 3rd floor, 4th floor, 5th, carrying away people who forgot I existed the moment money changed hands. Here's what they didn't know as they rode up to their private rooftop party. Every keycard in that elevator existed because of me. Every room they were sleeping in. Every mimosa they'd be drinking. The welcome brunch tomorrow morning. Even the resort fees that nobody ever reads in the fine print. I'd paid for 20 rooms at group rate. I'd negotiated with the sales manager. I'd covered everyone because that's what mothers do. We make things easy so our children can be happy. But standing alone in that lobby, listening to water trickle over stones while my family celebrated 5 floors above me, I learned something hotels don't put in their brochures. There's a difference between being generous and being a fool. What happened next shocked all of them. Before I continue, if this story hits you in the chest like it hit me, please tap that like button and subscribe to the channel. I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever been treated like a walking wallet by your own family? Have you ever paid for your own humiliation without knowing it was coming? Tell me where you're watching from because I need to know how far this story travels. Drop a comment if you've ever stood on the outside of something you paid to be inside of. My name is Abigail Smith, and I run a hair salon that smells like coffee and honest conversation. Not the kind of place where they serve you cucumber water and whisper about your split ends. The kind where women sit in my chair and tell me about their real lives, their cheating husbands, their ungrateful kids, their mothers-in-law who think kindness is weakness. I learned to listen 10 years ago when my husband died and left me with a mortgage, a business, and a 16-year-old son who still asked me to cut the crusts off his sandwiches. You pick up what falls and keep moving. That's what you do. Michael grew up to be the kind of man who thanks servers by name and calls me when he can't find the right screwdriver. He fixes neighbors' leaky faucets without being asked and brings me flowers on random Tuesdays. When he fell in love, I knew it before he did. He started humming while he folded laundry. Madison Johnson walked into our lives like sunshine through clean windows. Smart as a whip, stubborn as her last name, and absolutely crazy about my boy. She laughs at his terrible jokes and makes him eat vegetables. When she hugs me, she means it. I genuinely like this girl, which surprised me more than it should have. But Madison came with baggage. Not the emotional kind, the mother kind. Emily Johnson has perfect posture, a perfect voice, and a way of making my kindness feel like an audition I might fail. She speaks in charitable tones, the kind rich women use at fundraisers when they want everyone to know they're being generous. When I offered to host the engagement party at my house, she smiled like I'd suggested serving dinner on paper plates. How thoughtful, she said, which in Emily speak means how quaint. The destination wedding wasn't Michael's idea. My son would have been happy getting married in our backyard with barbecue and his grandfather's blessing. But Emily had a brochure that looked like a magazine ad, 3 nights at a coastal resort with infinity pools and restaurants that didn't list prices. It's what they deserve, she announced over dinner, sliding the glossy pages across my kitchen table. She wasn't wrong. My son and his girl deserved beautiful things. But deserving is one conversation, and paying is another conversation entirely. That night, After Emily left with her brochure and her plans, I sat at my kitchen table looking at the envelope in my junk drawer. The one labeled wedding in my late husband's block handwriting. He'd started that fund when Michael turned 12 and started noticing girls. Every boy needs his mother to help him start his life right, he'd said, tucking $20 bills inside whenever he had extra. The envelope held 8 years of $20 bills. Overtime shifts at the plant. Birthday money he didn't spend on himself. Christmas bonuses. Coins rolled from the jar by the bed. My husband saved for a wedding he'd never see, for a daughter-in-law he'd never meet, because he believed in planning for love. I took the envelope to the bank and had them cut a cashier's check. Then I called the resort. The sales manager, a woman named Patricia with a voice like warm honey, walked me through the group rate process. 20 rooms for 3 nights. Welcome cocktail hour. Resort fees included. Pool access. Late checkout for the honeymoon suite. For simplicity, Patricia explained, we can set up a master folio. One card holds all the room charges and basic amenities. Your guests just sign for extras. Simplicity. Hotels love that word. What it really means is, one person holds the bag while everyone else fills it with champagne. I didn't tell Michael or Madison about the rooms. It wasn't a secret, it was a gift. The kind of gift you give quietly without expecting applause or gratitude. Just the satisfaction of making something hard become easy. I did mention it to Emily at the cake tasting. Rooms are covered, I said, casual as mentioning the weather. And I've got the welcome brunch Sunday morning. Emily blinked once, calculating numbers behind her charity gala smile. 20 rooms times 3 nights times resort rates. Her mental calculator was adding zeros while her mouth said, how thoughtful. That word again. Like a pat on the head for a dog who brought back the stick. I should have paid attention to that smile. Should have noticed how quickly she accepted my generosity without once saying thank you. Should have seen the way she filed the information away like a business expense someone else was covering. But I was thinking about my husband's handwriting on that envelope. About Michael's face when he realized his wedding would be worry-free. About Madison getting the celebration she deserved without the stress of who was paying for what. I was thinking about love, and Emily was thinking about leverage. That's the difference between a gift and a transaction. I was giving with my heart, and she was receiving with her calculator. 3 weeks later, I packed my suitcase, printed my boarding pass, and flew to paradise with 24 welcome bags in my carry-on and a heart full of hope for my son's happiness. I had no idea I was flying into a masterclass on the difference between generosity and stupidity. The resort looked like something from a dream catalog. Palm trees swaying against blue sky, infinity pools that bled into the ocean, and staff members who smiled like they genuinely meant it. I checked in Thursday afternoon with TSA socks in my tote bag and 24 welcome bags stacked in a luggage cart behind me. Owen, the front desk agent, had kind eyes and patient hands as he processed my group reservation. You're the master account holder, Mrs. Smith, he explained, sliding key packets across marble countertop. Most rooms will have incidentals routing to your folio unless guests specifically provide their own cards. Gabriel, our manager, can adjust individual accounts if needed. 24 key packets, each stamped with Smith/Johnson Wedding in gold letters. I'd done this right. Planned ahead, paid in full, covered every detail so my family could focus on celebration instead of calculation. The welcome bags had taken me 3 trips to the dollar store and 1 very patient conversation with a pharmacy clerk about bulk sunscreen. Each bag held water bottles, lip balm, blister pads, antacids, mints, and a handwritten note signed with love from both families. Not expensive, but thoughtful. The kind of thing that says, I'm glad you're here, without requiring a speech. I left the bags with concierge and headed upstairs to freshen up. The rooftop welcome party started at 7, and I wanted to look like the mother of the groom, not like someone who'd spent 6 hours in airports and airplanes. My room overlooked the pool deck and had a bathroom bigger than my salon's break room. I unpacked my cocktail dress, touched up my makeup, and practiced my smile in the mirror. This was my son's weekend. I was going to be present, grateful, and helpful without being pushy. The elevator ride to the rooftop should have been my first warning. I walked up just as the bridesmaids swept in all bronze shoulders, beachy curls, and jewelry that chimed like wind bells. Madison's college friends, plus her cousin from Atlanta and Emily's niece who posted everything on social media with captions about living my best life. Room number? I asked, stepping toward the elevator with my key card ready. The tallest one, a girl named Tiffany with extensions down to her waist, smiled the kind of smile you give to helpful strangers. "We'll text you," she sang, already pressing the button for the rooftop. "We're late." The doors closed before I could process what had happened. I stood there holding my keycard, watching numbers climb. 3rd floor, 4th, 5th, the rooftop. They didn't text. I checked my phone twice, refreshed the group chat Madison had created for wedding updates. Nothing. The little dots that show someone's typing appeared, bubbled for a few seconds, then disappeared. Whatever conversation was happening, I wasn't part of it. The elevator returned empty. I rode it to the rooftop alone. A host with a headset and clipboard stood by glass doors that led to the party space. Through the windows, I could see my family. Madison laughing with her hands animated in some story. Michael loosening his tie, relaxed in a way I hadn't seen since graduation. Emily holding court near the bar, gesturing with a martini glass. "Good evening," the host said with professional warmth. "Are you here for the private event?" "I'm the groom's mother," I said. He checked his clipboard, then looked at me with genuine confusion. "I'm sorry, but this is a private party. Wristbands required for entry." I looked through the glass again. Everyone inside wore thin silver bands around their wrists. Party favors, apparently. The kind of detail that gets planned in group texts you're not included in. "There must be some mistake," I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I knew there wasn't. The host was kind about it. Apologetic. Professional. But policy is policy, and I didn't have the right piece of jewelry to join my own family celebration. I took the elevator back to my room and sat on the edge of the bed that I'd paid for in the resort that I'd booked, staring at my reflection in the dark window. The mother of the groom, dressed up with nowhere to go. That's when I opened the hotel app. The master folio was already growing. Rooftop bar charges filtering through from the private party. Signature cocktails with names like Ocean Breeze and Sunset Kiss, $16 each. Appetizer platters. A champagne toast that cost more than I spend on groceries in a week. All of it tagged to my account. I scrolled through the charges with the same feeling you get when you realize you've been walking around with toilet paper stuck to your shoe. That mix of embarrassment and indignation, like you're the punchline to a joke you didn't know was being told. But as I sat there, reading line items that added up to more than most people spend on car payments, something shifted inside me. Not anger, exactly. More like alignment. Like puzzle pieces clicking into place. They'd left me standing outside my own son's party. They'd forgotten to include me in the group text. They'd planned wristbands and private spaces without considering that the person paying for everything might want to be part of it. But here's what they'd forgotten. Hotels are businesses, and businesses follow policies. And the person with the master account? That person has options. I closed the app and looked out at the pool deck, where a few guests were having quiet drinks under string lights. Peaceful. Respectful. The kind of behavior that doesn't require management intervention. Tomorrow, I decided, would be different. Not vengeful, I'm not that kind of person. But educational. Sometimes the best lessons come wrapped in natural consequences. I changed into pajamas, ordered room service, and went asleep planning a conversation with the hotel manager. A conversation about policy and boundaries and the difference between generosity and being taken for granted. They thought they'd ditched me at the hotel. They had no idea I owned every room they were sleeping in. I woke up Friday morning to the sound of laughter echoing across the pool deck. Bright, carefree voices mixing with the splash of early swimmers and the clink of breakfast dishes. The kind of sounds that should make a mother's heart happy on her son's wedding weekend. Instead, I felt like I was listening to a party through the walls of a house I didn't live in anymore. The hotel app notification chimed on my phone. New charges posted to your account. I opened it with the same feeling you get when checking your bank balance after a shopping spree you're pretty sure you can't afford. Overnight additions to the master folio, late night room service to 3 different rooms. Premium wine bottles. Spa services booked for this morning, hot stone massages with champagne service. A cabana reservation for the largest poolside spot, complete with fruit platters and premium bottle service. All of it charged to the master account. All of it ordered by people who'd left me standing outside their party. I got dressed and went downstairs for coffee, trying to convince myself this was normal wedding behavior. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe the wristband thing really was just an oversight. Maybe the group text exclusion was just, what? An accident? The lobby buzzed with wedding guests I recognized. Madison's college roommate checking her phone by the concierge desk. Emily's sister arguing with someone over speakerphone about airline delays. 2 of Michael's groomsmen comparing hangover stories while waiting for the elevator. None of them saw me. Not invisible in a dramatic way, just functionally irrelevant. Like hotel furniture. Present, but not worth acknowledging. I got my coffee from the lobby cafe and found a chair where I could watch without seeming to watch. People watching is a hairdresser's occupational hazard. You learn to read body language, to notice who includes who, to spot the dynamics that people pretend don't exist. What I saw made my stomach clench. The bridesmaids moved through the lobby like they owned it. Signing for things without glancing at receipts. Scheduling spa appointments and dinner reservations with the casual confidence of people who know someone else is covering the bill. Using phrases like, put it on the room, and add it to the wedding account, like they were discussing the weather. The wedding account. As if it belonged to all of them. Tiffany, the tall one from the elevator, swept past my table with 2 other bridesmaids, their conversation floating behind them like expensive perfume. Did you see the spa menu? The couple's massage package looks amazing. Book it. Everything's covered this weekend. Emily said Abigail wanted everyone to feel spoiled. I nearly choked on my coffee. Emily said what now? I followed them with my eyes as they approached the spa reception desk. Watched the receptionist nod and smile, watched her check something on her computer, watched her slide appointment cards across the marble counter. That'll be charged to the master account, I heard her say. Enjoy your treatments. The master account. My account. The account I'd set up to cover rooms and basic amenities, not to fund a spa weekend for people who couldn't be bothered to include me in a group text. But here's what really made my hands shake around that coffee cup. They weren't sneaking around or looking guilty. They were treating my generosity like an open bar at someone else's party. Casual. Expected. Entitled. Like I owed them this. I sat there for another 20 minutes, watching my son's wedding party operate like a well-oiled spending machine. Every signature on every receipt was another lesson in how quickly kindness becomes obligation when you don't set boundaries. My phone buzzed. Finally, a text in the wedding group chat. Beach day. Meet at the big cabana by 11. Drinks and snacks covered. Can't wait to celebrate with everyone. 2 hearts. The message was from Madison, sweet girl, but I knew who'd told her everything was covered. The same person who'd apparently told the bridesmaids that I wanted everyone to feel spoiled. Emily had turned my quiet gift into her public promise. She was being generous with my money, taking credit for my sacrifice, and I was finding out about my own expense account through group texts sent to the people spending it. I finished my coffee and headed back to my room, passing the spa where I could hear familiar laughter echoing off tile walls. The sound of people enjoying luxuries I was paying for but hadn't been invited to share. In the elevator, alone again, I made a decision that would change everything. It was time to have a conversation with hotel management. Pause for a moment and think about this. How many times do we ignore the warning signs because we don't want to believe our own family would take advantage of us? Drop a thinking face in the comments if you've ever had that gut feeling that something wasn't right, but you talked yourself out of trusting it. What would you do in this situation? Would you keep quiet to avoid drama, or would you do something about it? Because what happened next changed everything. Back in my room, I pulled up the complete master folio on my laptop. Hotels love detail, and this one was keeping meticulous records of every dollar being spent in my name. The list read like a luxury lifestyle blog written by people who'd never seen a budget. Room service to Suite 412, Emily's room $180. Lobster Benedict, premium champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries. Spa package, poolside cabana, $340 per person, 4 people. Deep tissue massages with hot stones and aromatherapy. Premium poolside cabana rental, $200 per day, plus $150 in bottle service. Reserved under the master account for Smith/Johnson wedding party exclusive use. Late night bar charges from the rooftop, $280. Top shelf liquor, craft cocktails, and something called a celebration shot tower that cost $42. Minibar raids from 6 different rooms, $400 total. Premium vodka, imported chocolates, $20 bags of mixed nuts. I added it up 3 times, hoping my math was wrong. It wasn't. In less than 18 hours, my son's wedding party had racked up over $1,400 in charges beyond the rooms I'd agreed to cover. $1,400 of assumptions and entitlement, charged to an account they thought belonged to some abstract wedding fund instead of a real woman's savings. But the numbers weren't the worst part. The worst part was the casual nature of it all. The way they'd turned my kindness into their personal concierge service without a single conversation about limits or appropriateness. I called the front desk. "This is Abigail Smith in room 218. I'm the master account holder for the Smith/Johnson wedding block. Could I speak with your manager, please?" "Certainly, Mrs. Smith. Gabriel will be right up." Gabriel knocked on my door 10 minutes later, a man in his 40s with kind eyes and the patient demeanor of someone who'd seen every variety of wedding drama. He carried a tablet and wore the expression of a professional problem solver. "Mrs. Smith," he said, settling into the chair by the window, "I understand you have some concerns about your group folio." "I do," I said, handing him a printout of the charges. "When I booked this group, I intended to cover rooms and basic amenities. I didn't expect to fund a luxury spa weekend." Gabriel reviewed the list without judgment, the way doctors look at test results. Professional. Thorough. Unsurprised. "This happens more often than you might think," he said quietly. "Group organizers book with one intention, but guests interpret generosity broadly. Can anything be done?" "Several things," he said, opening his tablet. "First, we can remove incidental privileges from specific rooms. Those guests would need to provide their own payment methods for anything beyond the basic room rate. Second, we can reassign some of the upgrades and amenities to other members of your party, people who might appreciate them more appropriately." I felt something loosen in my chest. "That's possible?" "It's your account, Mrs. Smith. You have complete control over how your generosity is distributed." Gabriel pulled up the group roster on his tablet. 24 rooms, each tagged with guest names and current status. Some showed minimal charges, the families with kids, the older relatives, my sister-in-law who always worried about money. Others looked like expense accounts for people who'd never learned the word no. "Walk me through the options," I said. For the next 30 minutes, Gabriel explained hotel policy with the patience of a teacher and the precision of a surgeon. Payment authorizations. Incidental privileges. Upgrade assignments. Amenity allocations. It was like learning the rules to a game I'd been playing wrong. "The spa treatments scheduled for this morning," I said, "can those be transferred?" "To other guests?" "Absolutely." "Who would you prefer receive them?" I thought about Madison's aunt, who'd been working double shifts to afford this trip. About Michael's college friend who'd driven 12 hours because he couldn't afford airfare. About the people who'd thanked me for the welcome bags instead of posting pictures of them on social media with captions about how extra everything was. I have some ideas, I said. Gabriel made notes, asked clarifying questions, and treated my requests like reasonable business decisions instead of petty revenge. Because they weren't revenge, they were corrections. Adjustments to ensure my generosity reached people who understood the difference between a gift and an entitlement. When would you like these changes to take effect? He asked. I looked out the window at the pool deck, where I could see the bridesmaids lounging in the cabana I'd unknowingly paid for, sipping drinks that showed up on my credit card statement. Immediately, I said. Gabriel smiled, not the professional hotel smile, but something warmer. Consider it done, Mrs. Smith. And may I say, you're handling this with more grace than most people would. Thank you, I said. But we're not done yet. Here's what I'd like to do, I told Gabriel, settling back in my chair with the confidence of someone who'd just learned they held all the cards. Gabriel's tablet was open to the group management screen, where every room showed up like pieces on a chessboard. Some pieces had been playing by the rules. Others had been taking advantage of a game they thought had no referee. Time to change that. First, the incidental removals, I said, consulting the list I'd made while reviewing charges. Rooms 412, 315, 318, and 424. Gabriel made notes. That's Mrs. Emily Johnson, Ms. Tiffany Stevens, Ms. Brooke Patterson, and Ms. Chloe Martinez. The ringleaders, I confirmed. From now on, they pay for their own extras. Done. They'll need to provide payment cards at the desk for any future charges. Second, the spa appointments scheduled for this morning. Cancel the ones booked under the master account and transfer them to rooms 203, 228, and 445. That would be Madison's Aunt Patricia, who's been working 60-hour weeks to afford this trip. Michael's friend Derek, who drove here from Michigan because he couldn't afford flights. And my sister-in-law Janet, whose back has been killing her since her surgery. Gabriel smiled as he made the transfers. They'll be pleasantly surprised. Third, the poolside cabana reserved under my account. Transfer it to rooms 156 and 157. The Hernandez family and the Browns? Michael's friends from college. The ones with 3 kids between them who've been worried about spending money on vacation activities. They could use a day by the pool without counting every dollar. Gabriel's fingers moved across the tablet screen with practiced efficiency. Excellent choices. What about the upgrade assignments? I'd thought about this carefully. Hotels often have last-minute upgrades available. Suites that don't sell, ocean view rooms that stay empty, club-level perks that go unused. When you're the master account holder for a large group, those benefits usually get distributed automatically, usually to the people who ask for them first and loudest. Club-level breakfast access for the weekend goes to the rooms with children. The Hernandez family, the Browns, and Madison's cousin with the baby. Smart allocation, Gabriel agreed. Families appreciate those breakfast options. The available suite upgrades go to the grandparents, both sides. They're in their 70s and could use the extra space. What about the late checkout privileges? Anyone who needs them gets them, but specifically my sister-in-law. She's flying out Sunday night and rushing makes her panic attacks worse. Gabriel made the final notes and reviewed our changes. This is quite a comprehensive reallocation, Mrs. Smith. Your revised distribution supports the people who'll genuinely appreciate these amenities. That's the point, I said. Generosity should go where it's valued, not where it's expected. There's one more item, Gabriel said carefully. The welcome brunch you're hosting Sunday morning. Currently, it's set up for buffet service in the main dining room. Would you like to make any adjustments there? I'd forgotten about the brunch. Another expense I'd covered, another gathering I'd planned for people who'd excluded me from their rooftop party. Keep it exactly as planned, I said. Everyone's invited. Everyone's welcome. But I paused, thinking, can you add a small welcome toast? Something simple, maybe with mimosas. Of course. And can you make sure there are reserved tables for the families with small children? Somewhere quiet, away from the main crowd. Absolutely. Gabriel closed his tablet and stood to leave, then paused at the door. Mrs. Smith, in 15 years of hotel management, I've seen a lot of wedding dynamics. What you're doing, it's not vindictive. It's educational. Thank you for understanding that. May I ask what prompted this reallocation? I walked to the window and looked down at the pool deck. The bridesmaids were still holding court at the cabana, but I noticed they'd moved their drinks to the bar area, probably ordering more charges for the master account. Last night, they left me standing outside their party. This morning, I found out they've been spending my money like it belongs to them. But the real issue isn't the money, it's the assumption that my kindness doesn't require respect. Gabriel nodded slowly. And now they're about to learn that assumption was incorrect. Now they're about to learn that generosity has boundaries, I corrected. And crossing those boundaries has consequences. When do you expect them to notice the changes? I checked my watch. It was almost 10:30. The spa appointments would be starting soon. The cabana would need to be vacated. The next round of charges would be declined. Any minute now, I said. Gabriel headed toward the door, then turned back with something that wasn't quite a smile. Mrs. Smith? This is going to be interesting. I settled into my chair by the window, coffee cup in hand, with a clear view of the pool deck. Yes, I said. It really is. The first sign of trouble came at exactly 10:47 a.m. From my window seat, I watched Tiffany and two other bridesmaids approach the poolside cabana with the confidence of people who'd never been told no by a service industry worker. They carried designer beach bags, wore sunglasses that cost more than most people's car payments, and moved like they owned every square foot of resort property. The cabana attendant, a young man with the kind of professional smile that doesn't reach his eyes, checked his tablet as they approached. Good morning, ladies, he said. How can I help you? We have the premium cabana, Tiffany announced, gesturing toward the largest poolside setup with its fruit platters, premium bottle service, and prime ocean view. The one with all the extras. The attendant's smile flickered as he consulted his tablet again. I'm sorry, but that cabana has been reassigned. You're welcome to book another one, but I'll need a payment method. Tiffany's perfectly contoured face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, disbelief, indignation. There must be some mistake, she said, her voice rising just enough to attract attention from nearby sunbathers. It's supposed to be on the master account. For the Smith/Johnson wedding. That's correct, the attendant replied with the patience of someone trained to deliver bad news politely. It was reassigned this morning by the account holder. The new reservation holders should be arriving shortly. As if summoned by cosmic timing, Derek and his wife Michelle appeared with their 3 kids in tow, pool floats, sunscreen, and the slightly frazzled look of parents trying to wrangle small children on vacation. Excuse me, Derek said to the attendant, we got a message that our room was upgraded to include cabana access. I think there might be some confusion. The attendant's smile became genuine. No confusion at all, Mr. Brown. You're the new cabana reservation. Right this way. I watched from my window as Derek's face went through its own series of expressions, surprise, gratitude, and the particular joy of parents who'd just realized their kids could splash around without disturbing other guests. Tiffany and her group retreated to regular pool chairs, but I could see the tension in their postures. The way they huddled together, phones out, typing furiously in what I assumed was a group chat I'd never see. 20 minutes later, the scene repeated itself at the spa reception. Brooke and Chloe emerged from the elevator in matching spa robes, fresh from what I assumed were their hot stone massages. They approached the spa desk with the lazy satisfaction of people who'd just been pampered on someone else's dime. We'd like to add the couple's aromatherapy session, Brooke told the receptionist. And maybe the sea salt body wrap. Put it all on the wedding account. The receptionist, a woman with kind eyes and the posture of someone who delivered disappointing news professionally, checked her computer screen. I'm sorry, but your spa privileges were removed from the master account this morning. I can certainly add those services, but I'll need a payment method. The lazy satisfaction evaporated. Removed by who? Chloe demanded. By the account holder, Mrs. Smith. All future spa services for your rooms require individual payment. I couldn't hear the rest of their conversation, but I could see their body language through the spa's glass walls. Sharp gestures. Animated whispers. The universal posture of people discovering that free things aren't actually free. By noon, the confusion had spread through the wedding party like a virus. I ventured down to the lobby for lunch and found myself accidentally eavesdropping on conversations that revealed just how much my seamless payment arrangement had been taken for granted. Near the elevators, my keycard isn't working for the club lounge. They're saying I need to pay separately now. By the concierge desk, the wine tasting tour got removed from our package. Someone needs to call Abigail and fix this. At the bar, they're asking for my credit card for drinks. Wasn't everything supposed to be covered? The most telling conversation happened near the hotel gift shop, where Emily stood with her sister, both of them speaking in the hushed tones people use when they're trying to solve a problem without admitting they have one. Something's wrong with the billing, Emily was saying. The girls are getting charged for things that should be included. Did you confirm the arrangement with Abigail? Of course I did. She said rooms and brunch were covered. She wanted everyone to feel spoiled. I almost laughed at that last part. Yes, I'd wanted everyone to feel spoiled. But I'd wanted to choose who got spoiled, and I'd wanted that spoiling to be appreciated, not assumed. Emily's sister frowned. Maybe there was a miscommunication with the hotel. Maybe, Emily agreed, but her voice carried doubt. I'll talk to the front desk. I finished my sandwich and headed back upstairs before Emily could spot me. But as I waited for the elevator, I heard one more conversation that made me pause. Owen, the front desk agent, was speaking with his colleague in the rapid, professional whisper that hotel staff use when guests can't hear them. That wedding group, he was saying. The account holder made some changes this morning. Very specific changes. Gabriel says it's the most surgical billing adjustment he's ever seen. Surgical. Like she knew exactly who deserved what and who didn't. The families with kids got upgrades. The people running up bar tabs got cut off. It's beautiful, really. His colleague chuckled. Think they figured it out yet? Oh, they're figuring it out. Room by room, charge by charge. But here's the thing, she didn't cancel anything that was actually promised. Just the stuff they assumed was included. Policy is policy, his colleague agreed. Yeah, but this isn't about policy. This is about respect. And from what I've seen, some of these wedding guests could use a refresher course. The elevator arrived, and I stepped inside with a smile I couldn't quite hide. By sunset, the entire wedding party would understand that my generosity came with boundaries. And those boundaries had just been redrawn. This is where I need to know, would you have stayed silent to keep the family together, or would you have done what she did? Comment, speak up if you would have confronted them, or stay quiet if you think she should have handled it differently. Because what happened next at the wedding reception changed everything. The bridesmaids were about to learn that receipts don't lie, and Emily was about to discover that you can't be generous with someone else's money without consequences. I'm really curious to see what you think. Saturday arrived with the kind of perfect weather that makes you believe in fairy tales. Clear skies, gentle breeze, and sunshine that turned the ocean into liquid diamonds. Michael's wedding day was going to be beautiful, regardless of the behind-the-scenes drama that had been building since Thursday night. I spent the morning in Madison's suite, helping with last-minute details and trying to stay focused on what mattered, my son marrying a woman who made him laugh at his own terrible jokes. The billing issues, the spa confusion, the cabana reassignments, all of that could wait until after the ceremony. Madison looked radiant in her dress, a flowing creation that caught the light like captured sunbeams. But I could see tension in her shoulders, stress lines around her eyes that hadn't been there on Thursday. Everything okay, sweetheart? I asked, adjusting her veil. There's been some confusion with the hotel charges, she said carefully. Mom's handling it, but some of the girls are stressed about money. I met her eyes in the mirror. Are you stressed about money? No, she said quickly. You've been so generous with everything. It's just, there seems to be some miscommunication about what's covered. There's no miscommunication, I said gently. Rooms and brunch, just like I promised. Everything else was never part of the deal. Madison turned to face me directly. Abigail, did something happen? I could have lied. Could have smoothed it over, avoided drama on her wedding day. But Madison deserved honesty, especially if she was going to be part of this family. Thursday night, your bridesmaids left me standing outside your welcome party. Yesterday, I discovered they'd been charging spa services and premium amenities to my account without asking. So I made some adjustments. Her face went pale. They left you outside? It's handled, I said. Today is about you and Michael. The rest is just hotel billing. But I could see in her eyes that it wasn't just hotel billing to her. It was about respect, family dynamics, and the kind of person she wanted to be. The ceremony was perfect. Michael cried when Madison walked down the aisle. She cried when he fumbled his vows and had to start over. I cried because my baby was becoming a husband and his bride was becoming my daughter. For 2 hours, surrounded by flowers and promises and hope, the billing drama felt like someone else's problem. Then came the reception. The cocktail hour buzzed with conversation and clinking glasses. I moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations and compliments, feeling like the proud mother I was supposed to be. Until Tiffany cornered me near the dessert table. We need to talk, she said, her voice carrying the edge that comes from 2 days of entitlement meeting reality. About what? About what you did. Canceling our spa appointments. Taking away the cabana. Making us look stupid in front of the hotel staff. I set down my champagne glass and looked at her directly. I didn't cancel anything. I stopped paying for extras that were never promised. That's not how Emily explained it. Emily doesn't speak for me. Tiffany's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the flush of anger creeping up her neck. You didn't have to humiliate us. Humiliate you? I kept my voice level, but something sharp was building in my chest. You left me standing outside my own son's welcome party. You spent 2 days charging spa treatments and premium services to my credit card without asking. You treated my generosity like your personal expense account. But I humiliated you. We thought everything was covered. Rooms were covered. Brunch was covered. Everything else was your assumption. Emily said. I held up a hand. Emily said what Emily wanted to believe. But Emily didn't pay for those rooms. Emily didn't set up that master account. Emily doesn't get to promise my money to your comfort. Tiffany's mouth opened and closed like she was trying to find words that would make this my fault instead of hers. Before she could speak, Emily appeared at my elbow like she'd been summoned. Abigail, she said in her charity gala voice, I'm hearing there were some issues with the hotel billing. I'm sure we can clear up any confusion. There's no confusion, I said. Just consequences. Emily's smile stayed perfect, but her eyes went cold. Consequences for what? For treating kindness like obligation. For making assumptions about my money. For excluding me from events I paid for while expecting me to fund your luxury weekend. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Emily. My voice carried the authority of 10 years running a business and 20 years raising a son. Thursday night, I stood outside the rooftop party because your daughter's friends couldn't be bothered to include the person paying for everything. Friday morning, I discovered $1,400 in spa charges and premium services on my account. Charges made by people who thought my credit card was their personal concierge service. Emily's charity smile flickered. So I made adjustments, I continued. I removed incidental privileges from the people who abused them. I reassigned upgrades to families who would appreciate them. I transferred amenities to people who understand the difference between a gift and an entitlement. You could have talked to us first. Could I? When exactly? During the welcome party I wasn't invited to? In the group chat I wasn't included in? while you were making promises with my money that you never cleared with me. Emily's sister had drifted close enough to overhear, along with a few other family members. Not enough to create a scene, but enough to make Emily aware that our conversation had an audience. "Look," I said, reaching into my purse for the folios I'd printed that morning. "Here are the charges through yesterday afternoon. Room numbers are blocked out for privacy, but everything else is there. Line items, dates, amounts. You can see exactly what was charged and when." Emily took the papers with hands that trembled slightly. Her eyes scanned the numbers, and I watched her mental calculator running totals she hadn't expected. "We won't be discussing this again tonight," I said. "This is Michael and Madison's day, and I won't let anyone spoil it. But after today, we're done financing disrespect." Emily's charity smile finally died completely. "I didn't know about the welcome party exclusion," she said quietly. "Now you do. And I didn't realize how the charges were adding up. Now you do." She folded the papers and looked at me with something that might have been respect. Or fear. Sometimes they look the same. "Thank you for the rooms," she said finally. "You're welcome. But Emily? Next time, the master folio won't be so accommodating." She nodded once and walked away, her perfect posture just a little less perfect than before. I finished my champagne and went to find my son, leaving behind the debris of a lesson I should have taught years ago. Sunday morning checkout was a parade of rolling suitcases and whispered conversations. I positioned myself in the lobby with coffee and a clear view of the front desk, not to gloat, but to witness the natural conclusion of lessons that had been 2 days in the making. The first lesson arrived at 8:15 a.m. in the form of Tiffany approaching Owen's counter with the brittle confidence of someone who'd spent the night convincing herself this was all a mistake that would magically resolve itself. "Good morning," she said, sliding her key card across marble. "I'm checking out of room 315. Owen's professional smile was warm as he pulled up her account. "Certainly, Miss Stevens. Let me get your final folio." His fingers moved across the keyboard, and I watched his expression shift slightly as numbers populated the screen. "Your room and taxes were covered by the master account, as arranged. However, you do have incidental charges of $342.18. Will you be using the card on file, or would you prefer a different payment method?" Tiffany's carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the flush creeping up her neck. "There must be some mistake. Those charges should be included in the wedding package." "I understand the confusion," Owen replied with the patience of someone who'd had this exact conversation 6 times already this morning. "But incidental privileges for your room were removed Friday morning by the master account holder. All spa services, premium dining, and beverage charges after that point required separate payment authorization. But nobody told us. The system automatically requests payment authorization when incidental privileges are removed. You would have been asked to provide a card when making those purchases." I watched Tiffany's face as she processed this information. The moment when entitlement met reality, when assumptions crashed into policy, when the bill for 2 days of luxury living landed on her personal credit card. She paid. What choice did she have? Across the lobby, similar scenes played out with the precision of choreographed theater. Brooke discovered that her late-night room service orders weren't covered. Chloe learned that premium liquor came with premium prices. Emily's niece found out that professional photo shoots at resort locations cost extra when you're not the account holder. Each conversation followed the same pattern: surprise, indignation, explanation, reluctant acceptance. But the most telling interaction happened when Emily herself approached the front desk at 9:30, carrying herself with the dignity of someone who'd spent the night recalculating her assumptions about power and payment. "Mrs. Johnson," Owen greeted her, checking out of the presidential suite. "Yes," she said, and her voice carried none of its usual commanding tone. "I assume there are additional charges." Owen pulled up her folio with the care of someone handling expensive crystal. "Your suite upgrade was covered by the master account, as arranged." You do have $127 in incidental charges, the wine service Friday evening and premium coffee service Saturday morning. Emily produced her credit card without argument. No demands for explanations. No insistence that someone else should pay. Just quiet acknowledgement that luxury comes with a price tag. Mrs. Johnson, Owen said as he processed her payment, I hope you enjoyed your stay despite the billing confusion. There was no confusion, Emily replied, signing the receipt with steady hands. Just education. After she walked away, Owen turned to his colleague with something approaching admiration. In 15 years of hotel work, he murmured, I've never seen anyone handle wedding drama with such surgical precision. His colleague glanced toward where I sat, reading my book and pretending not to listen. Think she planned it all out in advance? Oh, she planned it, Owen replied. But I don't think it was about the money. Watch how she treats the families with kids, the older relatives. She upgraded their rooms, covered their meals, made sure they got the royal treatment. This wasn't about being cheap, it was about being fair. As if summoned by their conversation, Derek appeared at the desk with his family in tow, 3 kids bouncing with vacation energy and parents who looked genuinely relaxed for the first time in years. We're checking out of rooms 156 and 157, Derek told Owen, but we wanted to thank whoever arranged the cabana access yesterday. Our kids had the best day of their lives. Owen smiled, not his professional smile, but something warmer. I'll make sure the right person gets your message. Derek's wife Michelle leaned over the counter conspiratorially. Between us, that poolside setup probably cost more than our entire vacation budget. We would never have splurged on something like that ourselves, but it made such a difference for the kids. Someone thought you deserved it, Owen replied. After they left, wheeling suitcases toward the airport shuttle, Owen's colleague shook his head in admiration. She redistributed a luxury weekend from people who took it for granted to people who treasured it. Justice, Owen agreed, served with receipts. The final scene in this morning's drama came at 10:45 when Madison found me in the lobby coffee shop. Abigail, she said, sliding into the chair across from me, can we talk? She looked tired but peaceful, like someone who'd spent the night processing hard truths and emerging with clearer vision. Of course, sweetheart. I talked to Michael about everything. About Thursday night, about the charges, about what you did. I waited, giving her space to find her words. I'm sorry, she said finally. I'm sorry you were excluded from your own son's welcome party. I'm sorry my friends took advantage of your generosity. And I'm sorry it took hotel billing for me to realize how badly you'd been treated. Madison. No, let me finish. You could have made a huge scene yesterday. You could have ruined the wedding, embarrassed everyone publicly, turned it into a family feud that lasted for years. Instead, you taught lessons quietly, fairly, and without destroying anyone's reputation. She reached across the table and took my hands. You didn't punish people for being wrong, you just stopped enabling them to keep being wrong. That's the kind of mother-in-law I want to learn from. What did Michael say? Madison smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her all weekend. He said his mother raised him to pay for what he consumes and appreciate what he receives. He said he hopes our kids learn the same lessons. Our kids. She blushed, but her smile widened. Someday, when we're ready. But when that day comes, I want them to have a grandmother who teaches them about boundaries and respect and the difference between kindness and being a pushover. I felt tears start behind my eyes, good tears, the kind that come when something broken gets repaired better than it was before. Thank you, I said. No, Madison replied, squeezing my hands. Thank you. For the rooms, for the brunch, for the lesson, and for showing me what it looks like to set boundaries with love instead of anger. Outside, the airport shuttle loaded suitcases while families said goodbye and promised to stay in touch. The weekend was ending, but something new was beginning. Something built on respect instead of assumptions. Something that would last. The Sunday brunch I'd planned and paid for turned out to be the perfect ending to an imperfect weekend. The hotel's main dining room sparkled with morning light filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. White tablecloths, fresh flowers, and a buffet spread that looked like something from a magazine. But the real beauty was in the details I'd arranged with Gabriel. Reserved tables for the families with small children, mimosa service that didn't require signing checks, and an atmosphere where people could relax instead of calculating costs. I watched Michael work the room like the gracious host he'd always been, thanking people for coming, making sure elderly relatives had comfortable seats, carrying plates for mothers juggling babies. Madison moved beside him with natural elegance, but I caught her eye several times, and each look carried an understanding that hadn't been there Thursday night. The bridesmaids attended, how could they not, but their energy was different. Quieter. More thoughtful. Tiffany even approached me near the pastry station. "Mrs. Smith," she said, and her voice carried something I hadn't heard from her before, genuine respect. "Thank you for hosting this. It's beautiful." "You're welcome." She hesitated, then added, "I'm sorry about Thursday night." "About the elevator. That wasn't okay." "No, I agreed, it wasn't. But thank you for acknowledging it." "How did you know?" she asked. "How did you know exactly which charges to remove and which people to reward?" I poured myself fresh orange juice and considered her question. "I've been cutting hair for 20 years, I said finally. You learn to read people. You learn who says thank you and who just expects the world to bend around them. You learn the difference between people who appreciate kindness and people who exploit it." Tiffany nodded slowly. "I think I was the second kind this weekend." "This weekend," I agreed. "But people can change. Growth is a choice." She walked away looking thoughtful, and I felt something I hadn't expected, hope that the lessons of this weekend might stick. Emily found me as the brunch was winding down. Gone was the charity gala smile, the perfect posture, the voice that made every conversation sound like a performance. In its place was something more honest. "Abigail," she said, "I owe you an apology." "You don't owe me anything." "I do." She looked around the dining room, taking in the families laughing over coffee, the children playing quietly in the corner area I'd requested, the elderly relatives enjoying their mimosas without worry. "I owe you an apology for taking credit for your generosity, for making promises with your money, for not seeing how my guests were treating you." "Emily, let me finish. I spent so much energy trying to make this wedding perfect that I forgot perfection includes treating people right, especially the people who make perfection possible." She handed me an envelope. "This doesn't cover everything my guests charged inappropriately, but it's a start. And a promise that next time, if there is a next time, we handle our own expenses." Inside the envelope was a check for $800. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did. For my own self-respect, if nothing else." We stood together in comfortable silence, watching Michael and Madison pose for pictures with their wedding cake, surrounded by people who genuinely celebrated their happiness. "He's a good man," Emily said finally. "Yes, he is." "Madison's a lucky woman." "She is. But he's lucky too. Not every man gets a mother-in-law who teaches hard lessons with soft hands." That evening, alone in my hotel room before my Monday morning flight, I opened my laptop to messages that made the entire weekend worthwhile. From Derek, photo attached, kids still talking about their VIP pool day. "Thank you for making their first resort experience magical." From Madison's aunt, "I don't know how I got selected for that spa treatment, but my back hasn't felt this good in months. Bless whoever arranged it." From my sister-in-law, "Late checkout saved my sanity. Flying home relaxed instead of frazzled. Love you." From Michael, "Mom, Madison told me everything. Thank you for handling it with class. Dad would be proud of how you protected your boundaries without destroying relationships." And finally, from Madison, picture attached, Michael reading thank you cards from guests who felt genuinely welcome this weekend. "You didn't just pay for a wedding. You demonstrated what real hospitality looks like. I'm honored to be your daughter-in-law. The attached photo showed Michael on our hotel bed, surrounded by handwritten notes from guests who'd felt valued rather than tolerated, appreciated rather than exploited. I closed the laptop and looked out at the ocean one last time. Tomorrow, I'd return to my salon, to coffee and honest conversation, to the life I'd built one good decision at a time. But tonight, I sat with the satisfaction of a lesson well taught and boundaries well set. They ditched me at the hotel, thinking I was just a wallet with willing hands. They'd learned I was a woman with choices, standards, and the courage to enforce both. That education was worth every dollar it cost, and every relationship it clarified. Sometimes the best gifts come wrapped in consequences. Here's what I learned that weekend, and what I hope stays with anyone who's ever been treated like an ATM by people who should know better. Generosity without boundaries becomes exploitation. Kindness without limits becomes enabling. And love without respect becomes a transaction where you're always paying and never receiving. The hotel receipts were just paper, but the lessons they taught were gold. When people show you they're comfortable making you small as long as your credit card is big, close that account. Not with drama, not with revenge, but with the quiet dignity of someone who knows their worth. Family dynamics aren't different from any other relationship. They require mutual respect to stay healthy. The people who love you don't take advantage of your generosity. They treasure it. The people who exploit your kindness aren't showing love. They're showing entitlement. But here's the part that matters most. You can set boundaries with love. You can teach respect without destroying relationships. You can stop enabling bad behavior while still caring about the people behaving badly. What shocked them wasn't that I'd been generous. They'd known that all along. What shocked them was that I stopped. That my kindness had limits. That being family didn't give them unlimited access to my resources or my tolerance for disrespect. The real gift I gave that weekend wasn't the hotel rooms or the spa treatments or the welcome brunch. It was the demonstration that love includes accountability, that family includes fairness, and that the people worth keeping are the ones who appreciate what you give instead of assuming they deserve it. This story shows us that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is teach the people we love about consequences. I want to ask you, what's the most important lesson you're taking from this? Share it in the comments, because your perspective might help someone else who's going through something similar with their own family. Have you ever been the person paying for everyone else's good time while being excluded from the fun? Have you ever had to choose between keeping peace and standing up for yourself? Drop a comment and let me know how you handled it, because these family situations are more common than we like to admit. If you found this story meaningful, please like this video and subscribe for more real-life stories about family, boundaries, and the courage to stand up for yourself with grace. Ring that notification bell so you never miss when I share these important stories that matter. In the meantime, I've left 2 more powerful family stories on your screen that I think will move you just as much. Thank you for listening, and remember, gifts need edges, boundaries make love durable, and sometimes the most generous thing you can do is stop enabling bad behavior.